Another exclusive here on Locked On Nittany Lions as we get to chat with Penn State wrestling commit Sam Herring, a member of the class of 2026, about his recent run at the U.S. Open, why he chose the Nittany Lions, and what it's like to practice with the likes of Jax Forrest and Bo Bassett on a day-to-day basis.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day, the number one Penn State sports podcast out there. My name is Zach Seyko, and I am your host of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. And now it's time again for another exclusive interview on the podcast. Penn State wrestling commit class of 2026, Sam Herring, now joins the show. And it is a privilege to be joined on the show now by Penn State wrestling commit in the 2026 class. Sam Herring just took silver at the U20 U.S. Open at 61 kilos. Sam, you were very busy out there recently in Las Vegas, so thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with that, and we're going to hit on a bunch of topics in this conversation, but the U.S. Open, since it was so recent, I mean, you took silver, and you get a chance to follow it up at the World Team Trials, but can you talk about that run and what was clicking for you in Vegas to get to that title bout?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was anything too special, just trying to go out there and compete, do things that I enjoy, do cool moves and score points. And it was nice that was the first event I got to kind of participate alongside the NLWC guys and the coaches there, and as a commit, that is. And so I think just being a part of the program, being associated with them, you hold yourself to a higher standard. And, I think that applied to my wrestling out there, but I had a great time wrestling. The weight felt really good, and everything was kind of going just about the way I wanted it. There were some things I think that I got to clean up, some technique things, some mindset things, but I got a month to do that. So I'm excited for the trials coming up in about a month.
Which we've already mentioned here, that you get a chance to redeem. And there's, second place, that's obviously not how you wanted to finish, but it's certainly nothing to bat an eye at, especially when you were leading in that contest. So now you get a chance to redeem yourself, and you very well might see that same opponent at the World Team Trials. So how are you mentally preparing for that?
Yeah, so ideally I do get to wrestle him. He's because he won that, he'll be sitting to the finals of the event. And so if I make it through they call it the mini tournament, then I'll have him in a best 2 out of 3. So mentally, I mean, it's hard not to think about that guy a lot, just because that's who I lost to. But more realistically, what I'm thinking about is myself, the areas that I feel like I fell short or could have improved. And very few of them I think are technical. Most of them are the way I compete, the kind of performance that I put out on the mat. And that's kind of what I try to focus on in general, even when I'm out there. It's less results-based and more performance-based. I think that's the best way to improve. And that's just kind of my perspective on competition is it's all about how you compete in your performance.
One final note on the U.S. Open before we actually get to your commitment to Penn State. The realization of it, where you fall short of your personal expectation, but you still get pretty far as it is, because other wrestlers didn't make it to the title. So it's how do you kind of balance that, where you fell short, but you still have something to be proud of, and still something that is at the end of this, like I said, with the World Team Trials. So what is the mindset currently that you have to be able to process a defeat, but be able to have the headspace to bounce back from it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's just not about falling short or making it far in the bracket. I mean, I think neither of those things mean anything in the long run. Eternally speaking, they have no value, either one of them. And so for me, the things that matter are the things that I try to focus on. And so the realization really wasn't something that I was like, man, I made it that far, or man, that really stinks, I didn't accomplish it. It's trying to focus on the more eternal things. And so that is how I carry myself, the kind of man I'm becoming. Coach Kale's always talking about which way are you trending. And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm trending in the right direction. and becoming a better man, a better athlete through the process. So yeah, I think there's not too much realization there. It's just always improving.
You sound very aligned with what Cale Sanderson preaches and the way that the Penn State program operates. So it makes sense that you are committed to the Nittany Lions. Let's talk about this commitment here. What made Penn State the right choice for you? When did you know that you were actually ready to commit to Cale Sanderson and Penn State?
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of been a childhood dream. I grew up in Mississippi, and my brother and I were the only wrestlers in the whole state.
Wow.
And so at that point, I love to watch a lot of wrestling because, obviously you don't have a whole lot of partners in the state of Mississippi, right? We would drive into Tennessee for our wrestling club, but the partners weren't like they are in Pennsylvania, and the wrestling culture is far from it. And so when I wanted to get my fill of wrestling for the day, what I did was I watched a lot of wrestling. And so in my decade, my growing up, when I started wrestling in 2011, and that was also the first year that Penn State won national title. And since then, so for my entire wrestling career, it's been Penn State dominance. And so I've been a huge fan since I was young. And so because of that, this recruiting process became kind of hard for me to keep an open mind to all the other schools because I so badly wanted to go to Penn State, and I knew that. The fortunate thing for me is that when I was in 8th grade, maybe freshman year, I was able to start going to the RTC at Penn State, and so that was really nice. So I've been going to Nittany Lion Wrestling Club once or twice a week for years now. So I've developed a relationship with the coaches through that, and a relationship with the athletes. And then specifically Mitchell Messenbrink, I got to know him on a trip to the Olympic Training Center a few years ago. And so we got to know each other really well then. And this was before he had committed to Penn State, actually. So he lived in Wisconsin, and we became pretty good friends. And so when he moved to Penn State, we became much, much better friends. And so he helped a lot in kind of the encouraging and leading me in the direction of Penn State. And then when the process starts and you start to get texts and calls from that coaching staff, it becomes very hard not to fall in love with the program and the coaches there. The kind of culture they have is exactly what I'm looking for. And I knew that. I knew it very well because of how much time I'd spent in the room. And so it was after the visit, Coach Cale came to my house. Coach Cody had already been, and so then I went on my official visit, and then Coach Cale came to the house. And when he left, I just told my parents, I was like, hey, if you guys don't see any reason why this doesn't make sense, I think I just want to end the process and commit here. So I ended up having to cancel a few visits to other schools just because it was done, and I felt like that was the place that God was leading me. And I was very purposeful about that, making sure that it wasn't just something that I wanted to go to Penn State, because that was a childhood dream for me, but I wanted to make sure that that's the direction that God wanted me to go in. So it was a very purposeful process, but in the end, it was the exact same place as it was in the beginning.
Appreciate that insight. And that one of my follow-up questions was, if you had been talking to anybody extensively linked to Penn State, whether that's past Penn State wrestlers or current ones, Mitchell Messenbrink, if I'm not mistaken, he was in your corner at the U.S. Opens. So I actually want to pivot to the next question that I had, talking more about this class of 2026. Now, for yourself, you were the lone wolf for a little bit, or lone lion, I should say, for a little bit. And then Jaden James adds in. But so let's talk about which is not too distant in the future, both the 25 and 2026 classes. What's iconic about this group of you overall? What really stands out? What is special about this group of wrestlers? Still to come in this exclusive interview with Penn State wrestling commit Sam Herring. Sam talks about what makes these next two recruiting classes for Penn State so unique, so special, different from everybody else. He also talks about what it's like to go up against the other elite prospects in that class of 2026. He's teammates with Bo Bassett and Jax Forrest. Get some insight on what it's like to go up against them in practice. That is all coming up next here in this interview. And this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K device. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. Now, if you've ever wanted to try out a console's games, Xbox games, but you don't necessarily want to make that big upfront investment into a console, well, now you can do just that. You get that trial run with a Fire TV Stick 4K device. It's a low pressure way to start exploring Xbox games that seem pretty interesting. Now, all you got to do is head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including the Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen.
I think the coolest thing is that we're all very similar. And it's great when you go to a high school, it's normally not that you've chosen to go to this high school. It's normally just where you live and where you end up going to school. And so your wrestling club is the same thing. And so college tends to be the first time when everybody is chosen to be a part of a certain group. And so that makes us all very alike. The kind of things that we like to do are the same. The kind of culture that we want to be a part of is the same. The kind of coaching that we're looking for is the same. The kind of warm up to play dodgeball, it's all the same. And so I think that's probably the coolest part. And then, I mean, you can just talk about the talent. The class of 2025 especially is so much talent. Those guys are really incredible. And, it's special to grow up, competing against some of these guys and being on opposite teams and watching them and be like, dang, these guys are good. And then, getting to look forward to being on the same team as them is pretty special. And so I'm really excited to be on a team with all these guys. I think that we can continue to keep this dominance that Penn State has going. I don't see any time or reason why it would stop, and especially with these two classes and even the freshmen this last year is an incredible class. And so it will continue. There's no reason why it won't. And the coolest part is that as talented as the recruits are, when you go to Penn State, you get better very quickly. You get developed better than anywhere else in the world. And that's proven. And so that's the most encouraging part to me is I get to watch myself along with my teammates just continue to improve and accomplish our goals because it's the best place to do so.
Iron sharpens iron, as they say. And I know it's cliche, but you talk about it's having those positive influences on a day-to-day basis, on an hourly basis, where it's not even just the wrestling aspect of it, but just kind of, approaching life or approaching, common objectives there. And that's, you already kind of answered the next question as it is. What is that recruiting pitch to a prospective wrestler that is still in their recruiting journey that is, maybe they're interested in Penn State or don't know if, Penn State's the right choice for them? What would be your message from your point of view?
Well, I think it's a little different from my point of view, just because, I'm not the one doing the recruiting. And so I try to, when Jaden James, I had heard that he had decommitted from Virginia Tech earlier this year. And so I sent him a text. I had known him for a little bit, just kind of briefly, not super well, but just like how I'd love to be teammates with him. He's somebody that I'd love to be around for the rest of our wrestling careers. And, I think he's an awesome wrestler and he would be best developed at Penn State. And so I just sent him that text. And then when he was on his visit, I told him I hoped he was having an awesome time. But I think that's kind of my role, is if I see value in them and want to be around them, then just to let them know that I would love to be teammates with them. But I'm not the one doing the recruiting. Those coaches are pretty good at it. And I like their style. They recruited different than any other coach in the country. They're very relaxed and laid back, and they let the process go about how you want it to go about instead of rushing you or texting you or calling you all the time. And I really appreciated that from them. They give you a lot of space and work on your timeline. And the coolest thing about Penn State is that the kind of people that they want are the kind of people that want to be at Penn State. And because they've built such a great brand and culture, that there's a lot of people out there that do. And so they don't reach out to kids who don't want to go to Penn State. It's like the first question they ask is like, hey, have you always wanted to go to Penn State? And that's kind of how they recruit. And I enjoy that a lot. I think you get people who are just genuinely grateful to be a part of the program, even if it's the best recruit in the country. where they had their pick of the school, they're still grateful that they can be a part of Penn State. And that's the coolest part.
Now let's shift back to the personal side here. Mindset in your present development too. You're still at Bishop McCourt. You're going to, so this is different when I get the chance to talk to someone like William, who's in the class of 2025 getting to enroll. You still are going through one more high school season in that year of maturation and everything. So what really separates you mentally from other high school wrestlers at this present moment?
I think that probably depends on what other high school wrestlers you're talking about. Like I was saying, there's a lot of people that I'm very similar with, I would think. And then there's some differences, obviously, in personality and things. But one of the things that I think I have, maybe more so than most, is how much I love to wrestle. It's been my favorite thing in the world since I was so young. Very passionate about the sport. And I don't really want to do anything else. And I think that's a blessing for helping me improve. And the coolest thing is that, it's maybe different than a lot of people, but it's really similar to the people at Penn State. The coaches think that way, and the other teammates think that way. And so, as much as I love wrestling, I'm kind of surrounded by people who love it just like me. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing.
This is no secret to the wrestling diehards, but probably not everybody is aware of the fact that you are teammates with Bo Bassett, Jax Forrest. You're actually very close to them in their weight classes. So can you speak to what it is like to already kind of, in a sense, be in a not necessarily Penn State culture to Bishop McCourt culture? I know those two things are different, but the high level elite wrestlers that want to get better day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute. So what it's like to scrap with Jax Forrest, who actually just won a senior level U.S. Open title. Bo Bassett, who's one of the highest ranked recruits in this class of 20. Well, both of them are. All of you are in the class of 2026. But you're all in the same room. And then let me extend that. What's it like being on the same team, but knowing the fact that in a year, 2 years time, you're all going to be at the separate powerhouses in college wrestling with Penn State, Oklahoma State, and Iowa. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. So I talked about being from Mississippi, and to think that every day, going from my brother being my main partner to having guys like Jackson, Bo, and Melvin, and Devin Magro. I mean, it's kind of cool the way that our room has played out, where D1 commit after D1 commit after D1 commit. It's really awesome. And it's a blessing to be in that room, because having kids that think just like you and people that think just like you all the time, like in your history class, and want to talk about wrestling all day long in school and then at practice. And, I'm actually at Jax's house right now. His sister's my girlfriend. And so I'm around Jax, especially, all the time. And so it's just really cool to be around people like that. We just can't get enough of wrestling. And then to the point of what it's like to wrestle with them all the time. Those two, Jax and Bo specifically, are so very different in the way they wrestle, and yet so similar. It's really interesting. But they both wrestle at a very high pace, love to score points, and that is a recipe for getting better. And it's a blessing for me, because I get to learn so much from them and get in so many different positions in practice. And they've been going to the NLWC with me since we were in eighth and ninth grade as well. And we went through the recruiting process together, the visit. We were all there together. And I'm excited for them. And in the same way that I think God led me to Penn State, he had different plans for those two. And I think it's perfect for both of them. And I'm excited for both of them. It will be a little weird, though. It's really interesting. Like, even this last weekend, I would kind of sit with the Penn State team, and Jax was over with the Oklahoma State team. And we had never really not warmed up together and not been, around each other the whole event. And so when I would go over to Jax, I'm in the Oklahoma State section with my Penn State shirt on, and vice versa. And it's just, it's interesting for sure, but it speaks to how good of friends we are. That, Bo and I, 5 years from now, our teams will be very strong rivals, obviously, and we'll still be great friends. Us three this year, we're actually started in January reading the Bible together. And so that's bringing us much closer together. Every day, all three of us are reading the Bible in a year together. And so it's just a blessing to have friends like that. And being on different teams in college it is what it is. And it'll be kind of weird sometimes, but I know that when I go to Iowa City, if we can't stay in the hotel, I'll have a place to stay, and the same for Stillwater. And when those guys want to come visit, my house will always be open to them too. So they're great people. They're great wrestlers, and we'll be friends forever.
In this modern age of sports as it is, that's honestly very refreshing to hear. So I hope the listeners and the viewers really appreciate that story, and that the bonds will never be broken despite the competition. Let's go to off of the mat type of questions here.
Yeah.
Your personality. What is something that maybe people might not know about you or might not expect to know about you? Coming up next on this interview, we learned a lot about Sam the wrestler, but what about Sam the person? We'll get some insight into the personal side of Sam and some obstacles that he's had to overcome in his wrestling career. That is all on the way next. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. Now, that's where Monarch Money comes into play. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You'll get surprising insights. When I started using Monarch for myself, I realized just how much I was spending money on groceries, dining out, package deliveries. Now I get to budget smarter and save more. You'll also get all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. And you'll also get easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for, get this, 50% off your first year. That's right, 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year.
The Mississippi thing, a lot of people don't know that I'm from Mississippi originally. That's probably a big one. And then I also have 6 siblings, so I'm in a family of 7. That's kind of it's shaped who I am. My personality comes from that. I'm the 6th of 7, so kind of the youngest. And that's probably, if I had to summarize my personality, it would all come from my siblings. That's probably the biggest thing off the mat that most people wouldn't expect.
Favorite match you've ever wrestled in?
Any match where I wrestled. I like I said, I just love to compete. Obviously, some matches feel like I did better than others. It's one thing that Josh Barr talked about this year at NCAAs, though, is there's never going to be a match that you're fully satisfied with. And so I feel that as well. Every match, I'm just like, oh, man, I could have done this a little better. Or, I wish I did this. So at some point, they're never perfect, but they're all so much fun. And, it's a blast to go out there and do my favorite thing in the world. Coach Kale calls it his favorite game, and I couldn't relate to that more. It's my favorite game in the world. So it's just a blast to go out there and compete every time.
I'm wondering if you have a similar answer for the next one, the most intense practice session you've ever had. I mean, you've probably certainly had a bunch of them. Was maybe there one day that you said, hey, I got better, or I really learned something about myself and my teammates?
Yeah, there's been quite a few of those.
I bet.
When I was younger, I used to go to a lot of camps during the summertime. I would travel all over the place. But one of them was the Seabolt Academy Man of Steel camp in Iowa. And that was really difficult. I mean, those practices, I think I can remember the only ones that I didn't want to go to in my whole life. Just like a practice where I didn't want to get up and tie my shoes. And that was one of the harder things I had ever done. And I'm glad I did it. But it definitely gave me a lot of perspective. Those are probably the most intense practices, but we've had some really hard ones at McCourt at the compound. And then it depends on your partner at Penn State too. I can kind of get my butt kicked and it'd be really rough. I've had some rough ones before too.
Let's get to a lighter question, because to loosen another personal one here. Your favorite pre-match song? Do you like to listen to music? There's some athletes that just like to meditate and they want to stay calm, or do you like to get amped up? What's your choice of music?
I'm normally pretty calm before I wrestle, but I'm excited. I listen to music sometimes, and Other times I don't. I don't really have too much of a routine. And it kind of depends on what I'm liking at that point. In Vegas, Snyder had put on this song called Ordinary by Alex Warren. And it was like that week in practice, he had it on repeat. And then going down there, he had it on repeat. And then even, I think he got a hold of the USA Wrestling computer and had them play it over the loudspeakers at the arena. And then every match warming up, Coach Cody would put it on. And so that's probably the song for this week. But yeah, I mean, I really like country music a lot too. So any country music I really enjoy. But yeah, I kind of like all music. I really enjoy music in and of itself. I listen to it pretty much all the time. But there's times before matches when I'm just like enjoying being with the team or being with people and don't need music either. So yeah.
Go to pre-match snack, pre-practice snack, and post-match, like kind of that reward, that meal it's the best. You can't live without it.
Yeah. I get tropical smoothie a lot. I'm glad we just got one built in State College. Just got open this fall. I was really excited about that. But pretty much every time after I weigh in at an event, especially with the morning weigh-ins, I get a flatbread and a smoothie. That's just my favorite thing, and I feel great after having it. So that's probably the pre-match food, and afterwards, just whatever. I like to enjoy food a lot. This last weekend in Vegas, we went to a buffet with the team. It was amazing, like just really good food. I'd never been that satisfied in my life. And we were with Masa Ono, and there was like a Japanese section, a lot of sushi to the buffet. And so he helped me fill up a plate of that stuff, and it was really good. I enjoyed that.
I've taken so much of your time here as it is. So again, Sam, in advance, I really appreciate everything.
Happy to be here.
One final question. It's what message would you want to, give to the Penn State wrestling fans? Your arrival's still about a year out since you are a member of the class of 2026. But what message do you have for the Penn State wrestling fans in the community?
Yeah, I hope they enjoy watching me, and I think they will. I've been going to the Penn State duels for a few years now, watching Mitchell. Even before I was committed, I went to every home duel in Rec Hall and the Bryce Jordan Center, and so I got to be a part of the fan experience. And I really think I've seen when they get loud and seen when they stay quiet, and I think I'm the kind of guy that they'll get loud for and enjoy, watch, compete. And so that's the first thing. I hope they enjoy the way I compete, but secondly, I hope they enjoy the way I live and the kind of man that I am. I think that the Penn State wrestlers over the last decade have set an excellent example for young kids and really all people to look to, and that's the kind of people they want to become. And so I want to continue that. I want to be the kind of person that little kids can look up to and want to be like on and off the mat. And I just hope that I'm the kind of wrestler and the person that they enjoy to be around and to watch. And I'm pretty sure I will be. So.
Runner-up at the U.S. Open, has a chance to win at the World Team Trials at the end of May here. He's a member of the Penn State Wrestling class of 2026. That is Sam Herring, currently attending Bishop McCourt High School. Sam, thank you so much for the time, the insight, into your journey through wrestling. Excited to see what your wrestling career holds for you in the future. And thanks again for joining me here on the podcast.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And again, thank you so much to each and every one of you for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. And a big thank you to Sam for making this possible and joining the show, taking time out of his busy schedule. Really hope you appreciated the conversation just as much as I did. If you want to keep up with Sam and his wrestling journey, his career, links to his socials will be down in the description. If you are new to Locked On Nittany Lions, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. And for more coverage around your favorite Penn State sports teams, whether it's Penn State wrestling, football, men's basketball, and so much more, keep it right here on Locked On Nittany Lions.